Thank you. Good morning, everyone. 5G is this platform for digitalization and mobilization. It's also the platform with its multi-access, with its transport, with its core applications, supported by a common SDN and NFV infrastructure that can transform industries. Let's see. Here we have the clicker. And the foundation for this is really the cloud technologies. It's what we do with programmable networks. It's what we do with full mobility through the network, not only at the access. Where cloud compute and multi-layer SDN and millisecond latency accesses really provide the foundation. On top of this, with network AI, machine intelligence, we can automate operations of networks to save half the operational cost, or we can enable click of a button, new services, or new businesses. These are the fundamental technologies shaping our industry as we move forward, and of course the SDN NFV part plays a paramount role in this transformation. We are moving into a world where access connectivity will be dominated by 4G LTE. You can see here, in only 5 years' time, we will have more than 5 billion 4G LTE subscriptions. This is a dominant consumer access. But at the same time, only 5 years from now, we will have more than 500 million of 5G consumer subscriptions. It's a fantastic uptake, starting already 1 year earlier than earlier projected, picking up in Americas, picking up in Korea, Japan, China, but also in Europe. But again, at the same time as we have this fantastic growth on the consumer side, we see that 5G is so much more than the consumer experience. Of course, there is AR, there is VR. We can benefit from the low latency in all the consumer applications, but it's also a transformative tool. It's a platform for changing industries through what we do in industrial IoT and many of these automation transformations in the industry. In fact, ADL earlier this year published a report together with Ericsson where we're looking at a 10-year outlook. What could happen if we leverage the platform, the 5G platform, to its utmost by bringing it all the way onto on-premise enterprise use cases through the global reach that we get, as well as with these capabilities from high performance, SLAs, network slices, and so forth. Well, the projection is that more than $500 billion would be operator addressable in only these 10 years' time, corresponding to an additional 34% of addressable market. Now, this is spread over all the industries. Obviously, some will be early, some will take longer times in terms of leveraging the benefits of this new platform, but you can see that it's pretty well spread across most industries in the pie chart here. So what are we doing as Ericsson when it comes to supporting this transformation, making sure that 5G becomes this industry platform for digitalization and mobilization? Well, we keep an open door for industries to use the platform, to trial capabilities and build their business on top. So some of these activities we call 5G for industries. For example, in Europe, what we do in Scandinavia, what we do in US, what we do in India, Asia, and so forth. And they have really taught us that we have to have a much more open and embracing attitude towards other industries coming on top of the 4G platform that we have today, the IoT platform that we have today, and ultimately the 5G platform in the coming years. This is about engagements with these industries individually, but it's also about fostering collaboration in open source. It's about standardization. It's about making sure that those interfaces that we have come to rely on in terms of global scale and cost benefits, they are also applicable in the enterprise, in the industrial space. They are not only for consumers. It's not only to get billions of consumer devices, smartphones onto the network. It's really also to digitalize and mobilize enterprises and industries. We are a key driver in the intelligent transport system arena, starting very early with our engagement with the automotive industries, but this goes through the whole chain from vehicle electronics, the operators themselves, car manufacturers, the OEMs, chip manufacturers, road regulators, and so forth. Basically taking a holistic grip of what needs to come together to leverage the benefit of the platform as such. And as I said, we started early when it comes to the automotive, the transport system, but this goes across many industries. Done partly in partnership with these 5G for Industries activities, but also very much bilaterally between Ericsson and these industry players. Some more example in this space would be what we're doing in the mining industry, what we're doing with smart manufacturing, what we're doing with transportation, smart vehicles and smart transportation systems. You can see some examples here. Scania to the right here, things we've done with the heavy industry from Boliden, SKF and so forth in the Scandinavian region, and mining also around the world, but in this case examples from the Nordics. The key learning, I would say, when it comes to early engagement with these industries is that it's not as much about the technology and the platform itself, it's much more about the business models and the business innovation on top. So as a theme across these industry engagements, we have a realization that this network platform, it can actually be sold and it can be consumed, used as a service. So network platform as a service. There isn't any longer the need for so much self-built on-premise. There is not any longer so much need for do-it-yourself on the industrial space in the enterprise space. And that's a fantastic news. Of course, we know this from our learnings from the consumer industry with global scale. Now those benefits can also be brought to the enterprise and the industrial space. When we look at these use cases, the ones that I mentioned and many, many more, they show us that it's not only what we can do here and now, the current situation here, it's really about the road to 5G and ultimately when we have the new radio and when we have the complete cloud system behind it. So the early stage is really what we can do in IoT today with accesses such as narrowband, IoT and Cat-M. It's what we do with a cloud optimization of functions. It's what we do with a multi-access, multi-standard network. And of course, it's very much about orchestrating on top of an existing infrastructure, the VNF orchestration. The second step is really when we step up the access, gigabit LTE, what we do with massive MIMO, network slicing, but also things like dynamic orchestration in a true multi-vendor, multi-domain implementation. Last step is really when we add a high-capable millisecond or 2 to 3 millisecond latency new radio, when we virtualize the radio access network, when these network slices become globally available and, as we've shown in earlier events, federated across the world, the distributed cloud, the platform that allows any workload to be placed centrally, intermediate places, or all the way out at the edge, becomes globally available. And, of course, we leverage all the data in the network to its full extent. One example from what we can do then on the distributed cloud arena comes from media delivery. So putting media processing function, in this case, what we call the media, the MSP, delivering content to endpoints, can be put at the distance of around 100 milliseconds, 100 to 300 milliseconds, where the performance is significantly enhanced, and it would then reside on the aggregation site. A more aggressive scenario would be the augmented reality, mixed reality cases that we need a few milliseconds latency, and that's running all the way at the network edge, together with the virtual RAN functions. This is also an architecture where we have complete split of the user plane and the control plane, and of course the control plane could be more centralized, while the user plane would be distributed depending on the application, on the use case at hand. So it's really important to think of this as one common architecture, one distributed cloud platform where the instantiation, where the deployment is done separately from the design time and separate from building the VNFs. On the core network side, we're also busy, I would say, in the industry to transform the way we standardize and the way we build the functions. And this is shown here as the example of what we're doing on the 5G core, 5G next generation core. Some of the benefits with this service-based architecture goes into more granular flexibility in terms of how to deploy functions, but it also goes into things like more improved quality of service handling per slice, even if you have a device that have multiple slices terminating. Here we have taken a very active role in terms of driving this architecture at the same time as we're seeing the evolution of the current architecture with more functional and standardized interfaces. So where are we then in the industry when it comes to this virtualization journey? I would say that it's been great learnings over the last couple of years. Finally, you could say that we have large-scale deployments out there. We're showing in this slide that we have more than 100 customers in more than 75 countries, 25 live commercial networks operating from the NFVI layer all the way up through the applications shown to the left here, and including, of course, the orchestration. These networks are not all the same. They have their uniquenesses, no doubt, and I think we are, as an industry, finding our way in terms of implementing with high quality and making sure that we leverage learnings. But the big thing ahead of us is really how we take these learnings into a broadened and industrialized implementation, because there isn't a way to do this only on the bespoke basis per operator, per network. This has to be leveraged across to get the scale benefit, the cost benefit, and of course also to have a speedy deployment of new applications and new infrastructure. So, when it comes to maturity of this technology, I would say that we have learned a lot. We are very close to having stable implementations in the industry across all these use cases. Some of the things we are showing in this event, we are showing together with Verizon. Peter mentioned it earlier here, that we can show how the dynamic orchestrator places workloads in a global infrastructure on a global basis, full orchestration. This is now ready, demonstrated out there. You can also take a look at some work that we're doing together with NTT Docomo. And this is about using a distributed infrastructure to place workloads within a network slice or contributing to a network slice in different places along that infrastructure. We're also showing what we can do with policy control within these network slices themselves, as well as some more advanced, some more forward-looking distributed cloud applications in the AR, VR, mixed reality use case arena. All of these things are now maturing to a level where we see industries picking up on them. We see that operators are really eager to deploy, of course, stabilize and industrialize, but really take the full advantage of it. And at the same time, we are showing then how the basics, in this case, demonstrated by the virtual EPG running 60 gig of traffic per server, I believe is shown together with Intel outside here, is also a way to get efficiency up. We're talking about 10 to, in some cases, 20 times improvement using the optimization techniques here. Really striking, I would say, is the fact that now we have the capability to do multi-vendor and multi-domain DevOps for both PNF, physical network nodes, as well as VNFs in a much faster way, in a much more industrialized way than just in the previous years. Here, demonstrating that within a day and a half, we can actually, in a fully automated way, deploy new software, new functionality, or upgrade functionality, both on the PNF side and on the VNF side. Again, what this gives us is a platform. This is a technology that has now matured over the last couple of years to a point where we get scale advantage, we get consistency in implementations, we get the performance that is expected of a network to stand up, including, of course, taking care of security, performance SLAs, and so forth. All of this done at an industrialized level. What we have ahead of us now is really the next step in terms of leveraging this platform. And this cannot be done only by our industry, only by operators or vendors. This is where we really need to find out which are the new business models, which are the new ways to use this platform. Again, this is a platform where industries and enterprises need to meet with network providers, operator service providers in a completely new way. So just demonstrating these concepts with capabilities separated into network slicing, or how we can benefit from the 2 to 3 millisecond latency, that is not enough, of course. We have to go beyond that. And we are very encouraged to see how our open door to industries such as the automotive industry, the manufacturing industry, what we are doing in the broader ecosystem of transportation, asset tracking, logistics, all of these industries are now eager to use the capabilities of the platform in a way completely different from before. But this is where we are. We have to take the steps beyond the implementation on the platform and into business innovation. With that, I'd just like to thank you.